Okay, so we will begin looking first at the chromate-dichromate equilibrium. And notice that we have our test tubes having approximately equal amounts of the potassium dichromate 6 solution. To the first test tube, we're going to add a few drops of dilute sulfuric acid. Please note the color changes that occur. The color change that has occurred. First test tube, acid added to it. Next, we're going to add sodium hydroxide in test tube number 2. And again, you'll record your color changes or any differences that you notice would have occurred. That's test tube number 2. The one on your extreme left, test tube number 1, to which acid was added. The second one, test tube number 2, to which base was added. Now in the third test tube, we're going to alternate the addition of acid and base so that you see that change in color, signifying a change in equilibrium position. So there we have. You should be able to know what was added based on the color change. Acid. Then we're going to alternate that with the addition of alkali. Compare it with test tube number 2. Then we're going to add acid again, one at a time, and then we'll add base again, so that you're very clear on what is being done. Again, comparison with test tube number 1. And the last addition to that same test tube will be an addition of alkali. And there you have it. Please record your observations. Okay, so we are now on to experiment number 2, and in this one we're looking at the equilibrium that exists between iron 3 and thiocyanate. So we prepared a solution of the iron 3 thiocyanate, and that's what you're seeing divided into 4. So you have 4 test tubes there, all with a similar color, and basically what you're looking at is your equilibrium mixture, where the Fe3 plus is in equilibrium with the thiocyanate ion. Now into the first test tube. The first test tube, we're going to leave it untouched. That's our control. We'll compare everything against that. In the second test tube, we're going to add Fe3 plus ions. Please record the color change, and if you ensure that you compare it with the control. So the first one is the control. So talk about the difference in color or the intensity of the color against the control. For the third test tube, we're adding thiocyanate ions. And there you have test tube number 1, your control. Test tube number 2, where we add Fe3 plus ions, and test tube number 3, where we add the thiocyanate ions. In test tube number 4, we're going to add a small amount of potassium dihydrogen phosphate. Please make your observations. So that's test tube number 4. to which potassium dihydrogen phosphate was added. And again, we're comparing with, now on to our third equilibrium system, and this one we'll be using an indicator named methyl red, and your indicators are the salts of weak acids and are in equilibrium. So we have 3 test tubes. In the first test tube, we're going to add acid. In the first test tube, we already have sulfuric acid present. In the second one, we have sodium hydroxide, and in the third one, we have water. And we're going to add the indicator to each one of those test tubes. So the first one with the sulfuric acid, we're going to add a few drops of our methyl red indicator. So there you're seeing the color that that indicator would have in an acidic medium. You record your observations. In the second test tube that contains sodium hydroxide, we add a few drops of our indicator. And there you have the color of that indicator in alkali. And to the third test tube, which contains water, we're first going to add sodium hydroxide, our base. Okay, we'll add our indicator first. I'm getting ahead of myself. We add our indicator first. So notice the color. That's the color of the indicator in a neutral solution. And now we will add sodium hydroxide to that test tube number 3. Sodium hydroxide has been added. And now we'll add acid to that same test tube. If you compare it, after we've added the sodium hydroxide, compare it with the second test tube. And now we're going to add acid. Note the color change. And compare it with test tube E. Okay? So there you have it. Please take your observations. Good. So we're going to look at our fourth equilibrium system, and this is the equilibrium that exists between hydrated cobalt 2 and cobalt 3. Sorry, hydrated cobalt 2 and cobalt 3, correct. So here we have a solution of the cobalt salt in HCl. Note the color of that solution. And to that we are going to add water. Note the color change that has occurred. Okay, water has been added to that solution. Now we're going to add 12 molar HCl to that, just a few drops. Record your color change there. We're now going to add water to the same solution. Again, record your observed change in color. Some more acid is going to be added. So we're taking the equilibrium back and forth, back and forth. Please record your observations. Okay. So at this point in our method, we're going to add a different solution. We're going to add a bit of silver nitrate solution. And the silver nitrate solution is going to be added until till you observe a change in the appearance. And by now you should be observing that change that is occurring. And please record the color change that you're seeing right at the top of the solution there. That is reacting directly with the added silver nitrate. Okay, you'll make your observations now and attempt the questions on the student worksheet. Okay, so our last equilibrium system is the one that exists between nitrogen dioxide and dinitrogen tetroxide. What we're going to start with is 2 test tubes containing the brown nitrogen dioxide. The blue bits that you see at the bottom of the test tube is just based on the salt that was used to form the gas, which is copper nitrate, which is blue in color. So we're going to put one of these test tubes in a hot water bath, and then we'll put the other one in an ice bath, and you'll observe after a few moments the change in color. Record any change in color that occurs. So one in the ice bath and one in the hot water bath. So after a few minutes in the ice bath, notice the test tubes. And here we have in the hot water bath. Notice how the intensity of the color of the gas has increased. Here you have it. So I'll exchange it. And I'll put one from the ice bath into the water bath, and then I'll take out one from the water bath and put it into the ice bath, and we will see what happens to the colors. Okay, so you notice that this one is starting to acquire a brown appearance. See the brown color that is setting up there in the water bath. And then we still have the one in the ice bath. It has lost the intensity that it had previously. And we'll leave it for a little while, and then we'll check back in with it and see if that color completely disappears. Because it will take some time for the temperature to equal the temperature in the ice bath. So we'll continue to monitor that, as we will the one in the water bath. This one is very clear to see that it is becoming a little darker. Okay, so we're looking at our test tube of gas in the hot water for the last bit, and then in the cold water, in the ice water bath. There you have it. So you'll now make your observations and attempt the questions on the student report.